to Ecom Insiders today. My name is Debbie, and this event is sponsored by SPCTEK. Today's topic is how to increase profitability through FBA auditing and reimbursements. And our guest today is Lisa Kinski. She is the Marketing and Partnership Manager for Getida. Lisa Kinski, Marketing and Partner Manager at Getida, first joined the e-commerce industry by the way of end-to-end supply chain service provider in the summer of 2020. We all remember what we were doing back then, right? Since June of 2022, Lisa has been dedicated to helping educate FBA sellers on how to increase their profitability and minimize FBA fees through FBA audits and reimbursements. She also co-hosts Getida's two podcasts, Prime Talk and Sellernomics. I love the name Sellernomics. Okay, so first thing for starters, Lisa, can you explain to the audience what is FBA auditing and reimbursements for anybody who's unfamiliar with the concept?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Debbie, thank you so much for having me here. So, FBA auditing and reimbursements. I think we're all pretty familiar with the term auditing, and that's just doing a comprehensive review of what you've got going on, right? You audit your accounting books to see where spend is going out and where income is coming in. Same thing with FBA auditing. This is doing a comprehensive review of your FBA inventory and all of your shipments to identify any discrepancies that exist. So the easiest example, you ship in 1,000 units to FBA, they only receive 900. So it's doing a comprehensive check of your account, finding any of those issues. And then FBA reimbursements is part of Amazon's policy where they will give you money back for anything you are due as a result of an issue in FBA warehouse. So if you shipped in 1,000, they only received 900 or they only processed 900. If their product was either lost or if it was wrongfully destroyed, they will reimburse you the list price of that product. So it's finding the
Lisa,
problem. Go
you're
ahead.
telling me that things actually get lost in Amazon's warehouse?
Believe it or not, Debbie. I
So
mean,
I can
it's
go
it's
ahead.
just so much inventory processing through one of
Yeah.
those warehouses every day. It's just bound to happen, right? I mean, if
Yes.
nobody's ever gone to, I live in Atlanta. If you've ever fallen through Hartsfield Jackson, your luggage has probably gotten misplaced. It's very similar just because of the quantity, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And so obviously FBA audits are helping Amazons to improve their profitability, but what are the most common discrepancies that would be uncovered during an FBA audit?
Yeah, it's really going to be that lost inbound inventory. So when you ship in 1,000 units, Amazon only receives 900. They have the policy to say they will make right on any error that occurs, but it doesn't behoove Amazon to chase their own tail all day long, right?
Yeah.
If they are constantly checking that sheet, wait a second, Debbie, this box says it should have 1,000. I've only got 900. I mean, nothing would ever get shipped out. So it's on the onus of the seller to audit their account, identify the issues, and open a case with Amazon to say, hey, where is my box of 100? And that can result in one of two things. It can result in saying, whoops, I found it over here shoved in a corner, my bad. And they will reapply that inventory to your account, and then you can then sell it, no harm, no foul. Or they'll say, Miss Debbie, I am so sorry. We lost that inventory. Here is a cash reimbursement for that inventory. And what's very, very cool is Amazon will reimburse you the list price of the product minus the fees. So it's as
Yeah.
though you sold the item, but you didn't have to pay the PPC to sell it. And that's where most folks don't understand is they think they're just getting reimbursed the COGS, their cost of goods sold. It's the list price. Now, there is some nuance if you've run a lightning deal recently or if you've had a
Right.
coupon, there's time windows in which they grab a median, but they give you your money back. So it's as though you sold the item. So that's where we're really helping sellers to increase the
Yeah.
profitability is by helping them find that money that has been left on the table and putting it back in their pocket.
Now, how often should an Amazon seller conduct an FBA audit?
I love this question. The true answer is it depends. Our service, we are doing a daily audit for our sellers, but if for sellers who are processing this in-house, I recommend no less than once a month to once every 2 weeks because reimbursement claim windows vary from 3 months to 18 months. And there's a swath of deadlines in between, depending on the marketplace you're selling in and the claim type. But the shortest FBA reimbursement claim type window is 3 months. That is for what's called weights and dimensions. And so it's, you have a deck of cards that's 3 inches by 5 inches, and somehow in the Cuba scanner it got scanned as 10 by 12. Now you're in a very different size category,
Oh,
and you need to
okay.
catch those very quickly. And you also want to be sure that you're responding to Amazon's requests for documentation very quickly so you can move the claim along as quickly as possible. So it's all about finding fast and responding fast.
And so I can absolutely see how that would make a difference because it's making a difference in even what your fees are for FBA. If it's a difference in, let's say, packaging, we're not even talking about quantities right now. Because I
Right.
think when most people think about auditing, they are thinking about the fact that it's numbers, how many they received and stuff. But you're saying that there are other factors that could actually help them with reimbursement other than just quantities, maybe measurements, weights, or anything like that.
Absolutely, especially with the weights and dimensions. If there is a product you're selling that's continuously going through the Cuba scanner larger than the actual product size, usually the culprit of this is a poly bag, right? It scans the bag as opposed to the item. So just doing this auditing can help you identify other issues maybe within your supply chain. If you're having a lot of customer return issues and it's broken, if you have a fragile item such as a coffee mug, and it's not in a like a styrofoam,
Right.
box to keep it safe. Okay, then we need to add that to minimize your reimbursements, your returns. So there's a lot about your business that you can uncover by conducting these audits, and then a lot of money you can uncover by filing for reimbursement.
So, kind of walk us through the process of identifying some of these areas then for the reimbursement claims. I mean, where do you start?
Sure. Yeah, so there's a couple of different places that we can start, and I will walk the sellers through this as well as I can verbally. So
Yeah.
there's a few places that you can go within Seller Central. One of them is going to be your FBA inbound shipments, right? So under the inventory tab of Seller Central, scrolling down to manage FBA shipments and looking at your shipping queue to find any discrepancy between units expected and units received. That's going to be that lost inbound claim type that we're talking about. There are then steps that you can use right from that shipment to open a claim, tell them what the issue is, upload some documentation, and begin the process for reimbursement. There's also some claim types that can be uncovered through going through your fee preview report and your payment report for any fulfillment fee audits. There's also cancellations that can be dealt with, but really it's about the manage FBA inventory tab and the payment report and the fee inventory report. That's how sellers could do this manually. They can also plug into a third party service like Getida, but I'll reserve
Yeah.
that for the end.
Yeah. So, what kind of data and documentation then would you need to typically gather in order for your reimbursement request to be successful?
Yes. So sellers need to provide Amazon with either a proof of purchase, which is also known as a proof of inventory ownership, or a proof of delivery. So for less than truckload or full truckload, excuse me, shipments, a bill of lading that shows the number of boxes in the shipment and the total weight when it was picked up by the carrier, that could be used as a proof of delivery, but it must be stamped by Amazon confirming that the shipment was received. For a proof of purchase, that would be an invoice from your supplier. It could be if you purchase the inventory from another seller, that receipt, or a packing slip if you're the actual manufacturer. That also suffices as a proof of purchase or, again, proof of inventory ownership. The terms are interchangeable. And a quick tip here is if you are providing a receipt or an invoice as proof of inventory ownership, the price that you paid for the items can be omitted or obstructed or obscured
Oh, okay.
from that document because a lot of sellers right, wrong, or indifferent have concerns about an Amazon basic competitive product showing up on the market, and then kind of paying the price game. So
Yeah.
you can obscure that information on those receipts.
Yeah, we have people who will express that same concern with us from time to time when we're submitting invoices for them and stuff. Now, you said that there's a range of time between, how far back sellers can go, and some of them are a 3-month window. So, what are
Yes.
the shorter time frames for? What do you
The
need to be right
shortest
on top of?
Yeah, the shortest is 3 months. So that's going to be for the weights and dimensions claim time. The longest is going to be lost and damaged units, removal orders, customer returns. Those are going to be 18 months. But
Okay.
that claim type where we see the greatest number of reimbursements come back with that FBA inbound for sellers that are on Amazon.com selling on the US marketplace, it's a 9-month window. And for sellers in the UK and the EU, it's actually just a 6-month window. And
Oh,
when you're
okay.
auditing your account for anything and everything, that's why it's very important to just kind of get it as fast as possible. Because yes, you have up to 18 months, but what's the likelihood you're not going to have accidentally deleted a PDF in that time or lost a receipt? So it's about having your records as
Yeah.
clean as possible and submitting quickly.
Well, Lisa, now because of some of the changes in FBA where you can actually be required to ship to more than one warehouse, seems
Mhm.
like to me that this would be even more essential part of your Amazon account.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, because, you know, um, I just, we had a client who they did misplace part of hers and they did reimburse her, and then they found them later. And
That
so
does
then they
happen.
put them back in inventory and removed the credit that they gave to him. So if
Yes.
they do come across it, is there a time frame on how long it can be before they come across something like that, that they can put that back on your account?
That's a great question. I believe I've never heard of that happening outside of the reimbursement window. I believe
Okay.
Amazon maintains their own expectations with that, but that is what we would call reimbursement clawback. And those do happen, but it's still at the end of the day a win for the seller because even though they've
Exactly.
clawed back the cash, you have the inventory and you can sell the
Yep.
product. So
And you
it's,
can sell
it's
it
a
now.
wash. But I believe Amazon remains within their own. It's uncommon to hear that it's like, oh, 3 years later. I've never heard of that happening.
Okay. So I'm just curious. Let's say that every shipment I send in for FBA, I'm doing an audit or I'm doing monthly, and you said sometimes even biweekly. Can sellers avoid getting flagged by Amazon for excessive reimbursement claims?
They can. So here's the thing with Amazon is auditing, you can audit your account all day, every day. That's just pulling, reporting, double checking your numbers, crossing T's, dotting I's. Go wild. It comes to filing claims where sellers can potentially get into trouble if you are filing too many claims too quickly. And that's not because Amazon doesn't want to give you your money back, because they do. It's because Amazon requires that claim filing must be done by a person. And if you are rapid firing a bunch of claims, they're going to think that it's coming from a bot. So you need to be measured in your claim filing. Now, again, this is another piece of Amazon, surprisingly enough, where there's nuance and different levels, right? So for certain claim types, it's no more than, I believe, 250 claims a week. Some of them are only 30 claims a week. It's based on the frequency in which the claim type occurs, right? So for customer
Okay.
return claim types, I believe it's lower than FBA inbound claim types. But the
Okay.
key, and this is why I always recommend that sellers are auditing their account for these discrepancies and filing for reimbursement in real time at the beginning of their Amazon journey. Because
Mhm.
if you're catching things as they come up, then you are less likely to have a load of reimbursement claims to
Right.
file, that are 12, 14, 16 months old that are coming up on deadline that you want to get taken care of, and then possibly getting flagged for using a bot, even though we know you're not. But
Yeah.
Amazon can't tell the difference.
Now, is that something that typically, let's say, when somebody finally comes to your company and says, "Hey, we haven't been paying attention to this at all,"
Mhm.
okay? Is that what you typically find, is that there's just months and months and months of errors that you have to weed through and find?
Yeah, generally speaking, that is the case. So with Getida, we start with an 18-month look back and we conduct a daily audit moving forward. So we have a direct API integration into the seller's Seller Central account. So you can automate the auditing process, just not the claim filing. So we
Okay.
have patented technology to do the screening of the accounts and then give it over to the claims team. Often, though, to your point, we do have sellers come to us and say either I was doing this internally, but I only knew about one claim type. That's where we're able to find a lot more for sellers, is they were simply unaware, or I was doing it at the beginning of my journey, but then we got viral on TikTok and I had to get a new supplier, and then it just gets out of hand. Or, well, Amazon already reimburses me, so why do I need to file a claim? Because there are
Oh,
instances in which Amazon finds the error on their own and, again, make good on their policy and reimburse you. But what Amazon is finding that's glaringly obvious to them is a percent of what sellers are owed
mm,
back. So it's
right.
often lack of resource or lack of information. So we start with that 18-month look back. We collect all of the data and then, of course, throttle the number of claims that we are filing per account so that we're not getting the sellers in trouble. Of course, relevant to the deadline. If it's the eldest, it needs to go first, right?
And now the other thing I guess we all know about Amazon is that things are dynamic and they're always changing and stuff like that. So some of the time periods that you're giving to us right now are always subject to change because Amazon can change the rules, right? So how would a seller stay on top of the updates of Amazon's FBA policies, returns, procedures, and stuff that might affect reimbursements?
Yes, great question. So I will say for the FBA reimbursement timelines I outlined, the 3, 6, 9, 12 month or 18-month, those have been the same since I started at Getida. I think those are pretty well written in stone with Amazon. That has not been something I've seen change as much as we've seen their fee structure, the
Yes.
IPI, everything else. The best place I feel for sellers to get information is simply in the news and announcements portion of Seller Central, because
Okay.
that is going to be from the horse's mouth. See what Amazon is emailing you directly. There's also a lot of great newsletters that recap this information. I believe Brandon Young with Data Dive has a newsletter. Kevin King with Billion Dollar Seller Summit has a great one. There's Marketplace Pulse, Ecom Hot Sauce. You can't, there's a saying in the South, you can't sling a cat without hitting one. So if there's if
I've
there's a
never heard that
newsletter,
saying, but I bet I'll use it from now on.
so there's so many trusted professionals, and if you have a service provider like SPCTEK, like Getida, like some of the others I mentioned that put out newsletter with news and notes, definitely follow those. And you can always use Google, it's our friend. But Seller Central, that's where you're going to get the most timely, straight from the horse's mouth information.
Yeah, I'm always surprised at how many people never look at anything in Seller Central.
I know, it's
And
wild.
I'm like,
I
it's the best possible place to get
It
information on
it
Amazon.
really is. I think it's just a matter of their hands get too full.
Yeah,
I think it's just entrepreneurs alone are wearing a lot of hats. And that's in a
yes,
business that they kind of control a lot of the, bits and pieces. If you own a clothing store, you can kind of control a lot of parts of that. With Amazon, how many
right.
more hats does that add? How many plates are
Yeah.
we spinning?
Well, and I think that's the reason why it is important to find people who are good subject matter experts and stuff like that. I think sometimes our industry can kind of get, you know, blasted because there've been a lot of agencies out there who are just taking advantage of
I
people who
know.
want to sell on Amazon. It's probably the thing that breaks my heart the most is
Mhm.
that when somebody comes to me and they're like, I gave this amount of money to somebody to do this and I got nothing. And, I hate that, but I always love it when there are great partners that have just solid, relationships with their customers as well as other people within the industry. So I really
Yes.
appreciate what you're doing out there with your company and stuff. And as a partnership manager, just how important that is within our industry that people know and understand that there are great agencies out there.
There are.
Yeah.
There are
Um,
great agencies, there are great service providers. And I want to sit on this for just a second because I think what's important when you're evaluating a service provider for your business is one, look how long they've been in business.
yeah.
There are some really great agencies that are being built today from very successful sellers who know what they're talking about. But when you're evaluating a service like inventory management, like sourcing, like reimbursements, look at how long the business has been around because there are so often folks who get into this business using knowledge they had from 2015 when it was the Wild West, looking to
Yeah.
make a quick buck and then get out. So, really evaluate that and lean on your community. Amazon is the most beautiful community of every single person here believes in rising tides lift all boats. We all want to help each other. And attend a mastermind, go to a meetup, get on an online webinar and just ask questions. And everybody is so happy and helpful to say, "Ooh, I made this mistake. Don't do this. This is what I ran into. Here's who helped me." Ask questions. That's all
Yes.
I can say there.
Yeah. What are some final words that you would like to give us today for Amazon sellers that are just looking to improve profitability through FBA auditing and reimbursements? I mean, what's our big takeaway today, Lisa?
The big takeaway is to audit often and file fast. Certainly, I would invite everyone to check out Getida. We are a pay per recovery service, meaning we only get paid when you get paid. There is no membership fee, sign up fee. I'm tired and need an extra coffee from Starbucks fee. I mean, nothing like that. And we've been in business for over 9 years. We are buy sellers for sellers and always here and happy to help you all grow. I would also say be very strategic in your packaging. Again, I think this is where we
Mm,
learn a lot of sellers are missing out on additional income because they're paying more in fees. Because with Amazon, it's about the product. People have very high intent to buy. You don't need the Barbie packaging that is very flowery
yeah,
and beautiful to catch, the little girl's eye, or the GI Joe box to catch, what have you. It's not the shelving game on Amazon. So you
right.
can get some of that if you want it to communicate the benefits of your product, but I know sellers who do that just for product images or videography, and then they have different packaging to ship it in. That's totally okay. You want to keep your packaging as close to the true dimensions of your product as possible without compromising the safety and durability of your item. So those would
Yeah.
be my recommendations.
Well, and I think that's a great hint right now for profitability is that with the changing fees that we see on FBA, you need to make sure that you're taking up the minimal amount of shelf space.
Yes. Yes.
You need to make sure you're making wise business decisions
Yes.
just to keep your profitability in line
Yeah.
because what you have on the shelf today, the pricing can change tomorrow, next
It
week,
can.
you know?
And remember that Amazon does not want to be a warehouse. They
Yeah.
want to be a distribution center. And especially with the long-term storage fees right now, do not just send your whole shipment into Amazon with a slow selling velocity. Utilize a 3PL who has
Yes.
strong FBA prep practices to drip feed into FBA for your business, because then you don't have to worry about your next shipment coming over from China. When I worked in supply chain, we always said focus on the 3 W's. Always have product in working, always have some on the water, and have some in the warehouse so that you have a constant flow and you're
Yeah.
never, I have 2 units left and I have six. Oh gosh, like you never want to be caught in that position because then it's going to tank your BSR. And I mean, it opens a whole can of worms. So,
Well, I think that's such valuable information. And I'll be honest, I went onto the Getida website just as I was preparing, and you have some fantastic blogs on there that
mhm,
can really help them understand the FBA auditing needs and reimbursements. So I
yeah,
would tell anybody who's watching this today to really check it out. It's getida.com. Go on. Like I said, the blogs are very informational, very helpful and stuff. And thank you for everyone joining us today on Ecom Insiders, which is sponsored by SPCTEK. Our guest speaker today, Lisa Kinski from Getida. If Getida, I'm sorry, I said that
It's
wrong.
okay.
I put an R in there. If you have any questions, please leave them below in the comment field. If you enjoyed today's session, please subscribe to enjoy future editions of Ecom Insiders. Lisa, it was indeed a pleasure. I think information that you provided us was just so great today. And I think there's probably a lot of sellers out there who have never even thought about that they need to be taking care of this part of their business.
Yes, we are doing our best to educate the community as much as we can, but we can always reach more sellers. There's new sellers joining every day. So I appreciate you giving me a platform to help educate. Thank you, Debbie.
All right. Thank you. And we'll see y'all later. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.